And you are recording, so you can start whenever you like, Mike.
Okay, great. So welcome to the GBOS regular meeting. It's January the 16th. We are live on Teams and in person at the community room in Girdwood. The Girdwood Board of Supervisors, committees and subcommittees are subject to the Alaska Open Meetings Act, as found in Alaska Statute 44.62.310 and Anchorage Municipal Code 1.25, public meetings. Girdwood Board of Supervisors operates under the Girdwood Public Meeting Standards of Conduct. I call the meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. We will do a roll call and any disclosures you wish to do now. We can also do disclosures before items during the meeting. So, but I'll start off with a roll call. I'm Mike Edgerton, co-chair and land use supervisor, and in the room we have
Guy Wade, Fire Department.
Thank you. And on the phone, can you introduce yourselves?
On the phone, this is Brianna Sullivan, co-chair, Parks and Recreation Cemetery Supervisor. Thanks.
Amanda?
Amanda Sassy, Public Safety Officer.
Thank you. And Jennifer?
Jennifer Wincard, Roads and Utilities.
Thank you. And if anyone wants to make disclosures now, you can, or we can do it during the meeting before the particular item. Okay, I'm not hearing anything. Just before we go any further, I just want to acknowledge today is Martin Luther King Day, where we based on his birthday on the 15th, so which is a federal holiday for many of us. But I just wanted to read a quote from Martin Luther King, which I thought was appropriate. At the heart of all that civilization has meant and developed is community, the mutually cooperative and voluntary venture of man to assume a semblance of responsibility for his brother. And I guess that's what we're here for tonight, to assume a semblance of responsibility for our siblings and our fellow community members. Okay, we'll move into agenda revisions and approval. First of all, would anyone like to entertain a motion to approve tonight's meeting agenda?
Do you have a agenda item revision, but I guess I approve first, right?
Let's start by approving it,
Yep.
passing approval and amend.
I make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Thank you, Guy. Do I hear a second?
Brianna.
Thank you, Brianna. So before we speak to it, did you have an amendment?
I would like to add a couple things to new business,
Okay,
possible. Couple resolutions from the fire department that we kind of got late, and I don't know if it made it on the revisions or not, but it's a letter of support resolution from GBOS for funds. They're seeking state and federal homeland security and forestry funds on behalf of Girdwood for replacement of the Brush 41 and wildfire brush truck and supplies for Girdwood community. And the other resolution that Chief Weston said is for the purchase of fire turnouts.
okay.
I'll second Guy's amended suggestions to the agenda. This is Brianna.
Thank you. If you have that electronically, would you be able to send that? Sorry.
I think that the brush truck is under old business. Is that a different thing? I think it's number 10.
That was for the CERT and the brush truck funding, and
Okay.
the one that
Something else?
Chief Weston sent to me
Oh, okay.
yesterday.
Oh, I guess I didn't understand that that was a different thing. Okay.
But I could definitely send those if we want. Do you want me to send it to you?
We don't need the resolutions today because these would be new business.
What's the resolution for the second one? Is for turnouts?
Yes. And that's through a capital, yeah, 406 capital, yeah.
Okay.
I need some help when we get to that with the exact wording of the item. Does that imply a change to number 10 as well, so we take out the community welfare collection funds? Okay. Okay. So we have an amendment and I believe a second. Did I hear a second? Can't remember.
I seconded. I hope.
Okay, thank you.
Brianna.
Okay, thank you. To the amendment. Chief Weston.
No, it's okay. I was just mentioning that I was here if there's any questions or concerns.
Okay, thank you. Maybe when we get to the item, unless there's any questions from the board. If nobody wants to speak to the amendment, I will let's do a roll call for
the amendment to agenda.
the agenda.
A roll call for amendment agenda, Mike Edgington,
Yes.
Guy Wade,
Yes.
Jennifer Wingard,
Yes.
Amanda Sassy,
Yes, sorry.
Brianna Sullivan.
Yes.
The amendment passes 5-0 to the agenda.
Okay. Now we have in front of us the approval of the amended agenda, approval of the amended agenda. And again, I've heard the motion being proposed and seconded. So unless there's any further discussion, we'll move to roll call.
Sure. Mike Edgington.
Yes.
Guy Wade.
Yes.
Jennifer Wingard,
Yes.
Amanda Sassy, Amanda Sassy. Moving on.
Sorry, I don't know why it's. Yes.
Sorry, say that. Okay, thank you. Brianna Sullivan.
Yes.
Passes.
Okay, excellent. We now have 3 minutes. I'm going to suggest that somebody moves these as a group of 3. I entertain a motion to approve those 3 sets of minutes, December the 19th, January the 4th, and January the 9th.
So moved. This is Brianna.
Thank you, Brianna. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Not seeing any hands. We'll move on to roll call vote.
Mike Edgington,
Yes.
Guy Wade,
Yes.
Jennifer Wingard,
Yes.
Amanda Sassy,
Yes.
Brianna
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Okay, thank you. Good. Announcements. The public is encouraged to ask questions and provide a comment. Please raise your hand physically or virtually. Wait to be acknowledged. To help discussion stay productive, please direct your comments to the board rather than other members of the public, and keep your comments focused on the business under discussion. Please be respectful of everyone's opinions. GBOS seats D and E are up for election in the spring municipal election. Filing period last Friday and goes on till next Friday, the 27th. Information on filing is available at the municipal website. The MOA GBOS quarterly meeting, so a meeting with the new municipal manager or new acting municipal manager, is next Monday, January the 23rd at 4 p.m. That will be via Teams or in person at Anchorage City Hall. We'll now move on to item number 1, Chugach Electric Association. So I believe you're there, Julie. Would you like to present this?
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm Julie Haskett, the communications manager at Chugach Electric, and there's some Chugach folks on here with me. If necessary, they probably won't be, but mostly we want you all to know about our public meeting on January 24th at 6:30, doors open, 7 o'clock presentation for our Girdwood to Indian rebuild project. We are rebuilding 11 miles of transmission line. The project starts in February with clearing. And so we're having a public meeting in Girdwood on the 24th and in Indian on the 26th to give a short presentation and then break up into open house style for people to look at maps and ask questions. We mailed out 1,750 letters last Friday to what should be impacted residents, folks who live from Indian to Girdwood. We have a website. It's girdwoodtoindianrebuild.com. It's a beautiful website. We're working with HDR, which we will continue to update. But I mostly want to make sure that folks come to our public meeting on the 24th to learn about the project. And the letters did get mailed, so you should be getting them. I called and emailed some of you who are on this call right now, but I'll stop right there and see if you have any questions just about the meeting itself, or if this is enough information.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Julie. Just for everybody's, so everybody knows, the meeting in Girdwood, I assume, will be here at the community center. The meeting in Indian, where is that taking place?
It's at that chapel where apparently they vote in Indian. I think it's just called the Indian Chapel. It's right there off the highway. And I know when I called down there to get ideas where to have the meeting, they said, well, everybody votes at the chapel. So that seemed like a great place to have the meeting.
Thank you.
Because there's good parking, it's easy to get to, people know where it is, type of thing.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the community? Okay, thank you. I look forward to hearing more on the 24th, and I will read my letter.
Excellent. And please do check out the website. That has good information. And going forward, as the project progresses, if you need us to come back to this meeting, we'll certainly do that. Our goal is to make sure everyone has as much information as they need at any given time. So thank you for your time tonight in the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, we will move on to item number 2, legislative report. It's actually Senator Kathy Giesel and Representative Laddie Shaw is now our representative of the current House District. Kathy, I see you're Senator Giesel. Sorry, I'll be formal. I see you are online. Do you have anything to report? I think you're still on mute if you're trying to speak. If not, we will come back to you. Okay, let's move on to Assembly members. Randy Salter or Suzanne LaFrance, are either of you on? I can't see the list of attendees, unfortunately, so are either of you on there?
Randy's here.
I see Randy. Hi, Randy.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, Mike. Hi, Mike. Can you hear me okay? Sorry, I was on.
We can hear you.
Okay, so not a ton to report, but I'll go through what I have. Not going to touch on snow plowing. The transportation fair was this past week on I think the 12th. And if you've never been, and I'd never been, honestly, it was fantastic. I mean, all the projects are coming up, had their own table, including the Girdwood Alaska Highway interchange. They even had a video of actually driving that interchange, what it would look like. So again, if you've never been, highly recommend going next year. Really an educational opportunity. Working as you know, working on short-term legislation that's currently with the Assembly Legal. So hopefully when it gets back from there, we'll start rolling that out and have our first work session. As far as the whole former city manager piece, you know, Suzanne and Constant put out a good note. You know, let the investigation take its course. There's always two sides to every story. In a way, be slow to react, and we'll let them sort through right and wrong, truth from fiction, and then we'll take appropriate action to make sure that we fulfill our oversight role as well as our financial role. Let's see. We have a special meeting this Friday, I believe the 19th, and that's where we will determine the replacement for District 2, Seat C, that's Jamie Allard's district as she goes to the House. Then on the 23rd, we'll be working through, I'm pretty sure it's Monday, we'll be working through mostly bond propositions and ballot propositions, make sure we get all those through the Assembly. If we don't, we'll go to the 24th and try to wrap those up. I believe items on the 24th, AO 2022-17, that's put forward on the ballot, the use of marijuana tax for early childhood education and exempt it for 1 year from the tax cap. So there'll be some debate on that. Let's see, the ADU amendment ADU legislation did pass. There were quite a few amendments at the end, and that was AO 2022-107. I think we had 13 amendments, of which 11 passed. A lot of those came from Rabbit Creek and Rogers Park Community Councils, and I appreciate the work they did. Let's see, third-party building inspection review, that'll be February 21st. And let me just dive through here. For Girdwood, really the only thing I had out of the ordinary other than Holton Hills is just Chugach Electric, which was already spoken to.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I do have a couple of quick questions for you, Randy. The first one is there was another parallel action that needed to be done to fix the Girdwood ADU code. That's moving ahead, I believe. Because the changes to Anchorage actually broke some of the things in Girdwood. Maybe we're not being heard.
Randy might have got muted. Somebody pushed the mute off.
Okay. Randy, are you able to unmute?
There we go. I think I found it. Sorry,
Okay, great.
I have 90 million things open on my computer and on the right screen. Yes, so
Yeah.
that is in the works, and we expect to see
Okay.
that come forward soon.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, since you mentioned bonding, I was going to cover this later, but we can mention it now. There was, I know you put an amendment into the capital budget a couple of months ago for a 5-mile vehicle, or for a EMS utility vehicle for $100,000. And I saw that appear on the agenda as a bond within Girdwood, not as an area-wide bond. So I know I've sent a couple of emails on that topic. I just wondered if that's being dealt with as well.
I'll have to check into that one. I'm not sure the status of where that one sits. So
Okay.
I'll take a look at it and get back to you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the board? Not seeing any. Other community? Okay, thank you very much. Obviously, we'll have more to discuss on Halton Hills in this meeting, and then further actions from the Assembly. Thank
Sounds
you.
good. Thank you.
I don't know if Suzanne LaFrance joined us. I did see Kathy rejoined.
Correct.
Senator Giesel, if you're on and you wish to speak, now is a good time. Give us an update on them. Hello.
Hi, Mike. Hi, Mike.
Welcome
Thank you.
back.
Can you hear me?
We can, yes. Welcome back.
Great. Thank you for your patience. My screen had frozen up. But I'm not technically the senator yet. Tomorrow we all get sworn in. So that's the big day of pomp and circumstance. But regardless, yes, the Senate is ready to do business. We're going to be focusing on education. That is a wide subject. The base student allocation, that is funding for the classrooms, but we're also concerned about teacher recruitment and retention. A lot of schools started without adequate teachers this fall because there simply aren't enough. I realize that's a national problem, but we need to address here how we can retain the teachers we have, which takes me to the subject of a retirement program that is more of a return to a pension. This is something many of the Senate bipartisan coalition are very interested in. So you'll see us talking about that a lot. The high cost of energy, we're going to be talking about that. You just heard from Chugach Electric. They have notified us that the natural gas supply in Cook Inlet does have an endpoint. And so we're going to be talking about that. What other alternatives might be and things like that. But before I end, I wanted to just highlight a young lady named Lauren Salt, who happens to be Randy's daughter, and she is the Gatorade Volleyball Player of the Year. And so I just wanted to congratulate her and congratulate Randy. What a great daughter, obviously athletic abilities. So that's about it, Mike. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Sorry, Senator-elect, I should have introduced you as until tomorrow. Any questions from the board? Any questions from the community? Okay, thank you very much. Good luck tomorrow.
Thanks.
Thank you. I didn't see any, again, if there's any representation from representative-elect, or I guess Laddie Shaw, please make yourself known. Okay, Mayor's office. I don't think I saw anyone from the Mayor's office.
No.
No, in which case we'll move on to our school board. Andy passed on his regrets. He's traveling and unable to join, but Brianna has his report and is going to just read through the highlights for us. So over to you, Brianna.
Thank you, Mike. Yes, Andy Holman sent an email earlier this evening, and at the moment, the only school the administration is thinking of closing is Abbott Loop, and that may not be on the list either at this point. The CFO continues to find savings here and there that may get them through the upcoming year, but they still are not long-term fixes. So they still have hope. The Alaska legislature will make an adjustment for inflation and they will continue to have a lot of extra capacity at elementary, so it is likely this will be revisited next year, unless something dramatic changes in student numbers. Andy wanted to emphasize that, and we discussed this last month briefly, that the budget shortfall is about next year's budget. If they run the same programs at the same capacity, we would come up short next year because of rising costs. They are on track for this year. The bond package that has been approved by the Assembly right at $33 million, and this is primarily elementary vestibule security upgrade and roof renovations. It is much smaller than before, and they're moving back to annual bond packages. The ASD administration will bring some proposals to the board in regard to changing school start times. Among the ideas is changing of the order to still have high school first, but elementary second, followed with middle school starting and ending last. He will come more prepared next month to discuss this, as he's not sure how this might impact Girdwood students in particular, but certainly are impacted differently than other areas. And lastly, he said the plan to make up the missed days of school is to add 30 minutes onto the school day starting in February, and several parent conference days will be converted to full school days. And this is being proposed by ASD administration to the Alaska Department of Education, and early development for approval is not final yet. So he said to always email him or call if you have any questions, and he'll see us next month when he's back in town. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board that we can forward on to Andy? None? Any from the community? Hey, thank you very much. Thank you for doing that, Brianna. We'll move on to supervisor reports. Start here. Guy, do you have a report?
I know. I would like to say I appreciate Chief Weston's diligence, and yours, Mike, as well, for being at the assembly meetings and available to, I guess, recognize when some year-end fundings are available and speak up for Girdwood for that. So much appreciated.
Brianna, do you have a report?
Thank you, Mike. All I have to report is an email that came from Girdwood Trails Committee today regarding a special work session regarding maps, and it's Monday at 10 a.m. and it will be hybrid, so in the community room there and online. And the discussion will be a project to update Girdwood trail maps to be used as handouts and online, and trail maps for trailhead installation. So there's more, I think, continuity throughout the valley, and just fine tune that as a group committee meeting. But I don't have anything else to report.
Thank you, Brianna. Jennifer, do you have anything to report?
Yeah, just really briefly, I wanted to acknowledge I've gotten some emails at the end of last week about the changes in rates for the transfer station, and I will look into that and respond. That's one thing I just haven't gotten to yet. And then my other update, I will wait until old business about the highway interchange.
Thank you. And Amanda?
Yes, thank you. So the Public Safety Advisory Committee met, and we are going to have, thanks to Kyle and Tommy, commemorative signing or ceremonial signing of the police contract on February 21st in Whittier, tentatively, I think, or maybe it's firm by now. And then another thing that was discussed was the police department has some in Girdwood, the place where the police stay, has some improvements that are needed to make it more accommodating. So we are working with the police on that to see, and ACS to see it. Yeah, ACS to see what can be done and how much it might cost. And that's about it.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. You were breaking up a little bit, but I think we got the message. Thank you. Okay, and I have just a couple of things to say. First thing is just a reminder, the property assessments just came out last week. So they, the so-called green cards, well, I think this year they're white with a green stripe because of supply chain problems, should be arriving this week. It looks, they did publish all the numbers for the whole of the municipality, and it looks like in Girdwood the increase is lower than it has been the last few years. It's been kind of 8 to 14% the last couple of years, but the assessments are going up about 3% on average. So there is also an opportunity to increase your exemptions. There will be a vote in April to increase the residential exemption from $50,000 to $75,000. So if your house valuation goes up by less than 25, by voting for it, you'll end up with your assessment actually going down, your taxable assessment. So, but we can't make I don't think as a body we can make a statement one way or the other whether to vote for the bond or not. But I guess if you like free money, it's something worth doing. The other thing I want to mention is there's been, I know there's a group of residents who've been going around to other community councils and asking for resolutions of support from those community councils to oppose the Whole Hills project. And, you know, that's completely fine. I think there's definitely been misunderstanding from other community councils who think that GBOS is asking for that. And I just wanted to clarify that we have not actually asked any community councils for that. So just for the record, it's not coming from GBOS, it's coming from individuals, which they're perfectly at liberty to do so. I think that's it for supervisor reports. We'll move on to service providers. So start off with Chief Weston. Come to the front. Thank you.
Small item, maybe that should enter the door at any moment. But hello, Michelle Weston, Fire Chief. I just wanted to, I gave you a written report, but feel weird. Everybody's back. So we have chimney brushes now available to borrow in case you need one for free. CPR is a great time. CPR is great to learn. We did a KTU story yesterday, which was on the news this morning about learning CPR. We can, if you do the online training, you can come in to us for hands-only CPR. And there is my item of wonder coming right this way. Super exciting news is that the first tools that we fundraised for, which we had the tools break last January, finally just came in. So I'd like to show you those. These were fundraised for, and these particular ones were paid for by a grant from DOT. And if you'd like to actually come up and touch them and see how heavy they are, I think it's good to know. So if you want to come up and lift and see, so the reason it's important for us all to have tools is that the new vehicles these days are made of different strength. And so we have problems with the old ones actually cutting in the new types of vehicles. So anyway, so I want to show those. You can, everybody can touch. I think this is good to see.
Yeah. So what Chief's talking about is the ultra high strength steels. That's the new boron rod of some of the reinforcements. These vehicles make them safer and stronger, which is great. This makes it much harder to cut apart. So when we were going with some of their older tools, we had actually attacked different areas of the vehicle to remove the rocker channels and other areas instead of going to those actual pillars because of that ultra high strength steels. This is going to allow us to go through. They have 120,000 pounds per square inch of pressure on the cutting force. The spreading force is about the same. Spreaders go over about 32 inches of an opening. And again, we can cut about a 10-inch channel or beam or post with the cutters. We have a couple of rams as well that we were able to receive. This all works on a 5,000 PSI hydraulic system. Some of the other ones were the hydraulic or battery operated, a little more portable tool, but also a little heavier. Tools are going to be between 50 and 70 pounds, depending on the size and the capability.
Any questions on the tools? Nope. Okay. Just roll them away. Like you see, we only had 2 transports, hospital transports, so a relatively quiet night for us compared to how busy the community was. We have an EMT class right there. That's of LAS employees and Girdwood firefighters. Other than that, we had 5 members finish probation this week. 3 of those members are Girdwood residents, so shout out to Wade Ellis Tim McCleary and Chris Lau, who are the residents that are now on. We had one member, Caitlin Upland, hired by AFD. We have a new member open house on January 22nd, if you know anyone who would like to join us. And there's been a lot of discussion in the community about AFD's Medic 12 switching from ALS to BLS. We are working on the impacts that how that will affect us. And we just want to give a shout out to Dr. David Cadigan and Dr. Dow. Dr. David Cadigan for being our medical director and Dr. Dow for being the ski patrol director. And then also City of Whittier has hired some new EMS positions. So hopefully that'll decrease mutual aid costs for us. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions from anybody? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone.
I have a question.
Oh, sorry, please go ahead. Go ahead,
I didn't
Brianna.
hear what Chief Weston said. Thank you. She said two items are available to borrow. What were those items?
Oh, chimney brushes in an 8 and 6 inch diameter. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Oh, and then I should mention and clarify, I know we had something, a Facebook post, a little bit about there was somebody's house had water pouring outside of it, and they called the fire department, and unfortunately, we weren't able to respond for that. We cannot respond and break into somebody's house legally unless the homeowner gives us permission. So if we could get a hold of the homeowner, then that might be an opportunity for us to go in and do something, but we can't do anything without a homeowner permission. But it seemed like Girdwood crowdsourced that after I think Amanda posted it, and it all worked out great. So I just want to appreciate that as a community, we can get together and solve our own problems.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to police department. Is the chief online?
He is not here because I forgot to come. So I'll give the update. We've been in touch, and he actually gave an update to public safety at the last meeting. But they had a relatively quiet New Year's. They had a strong presence here. They had the towing impound set up with Fred's Towing, and we only had to tow, I think, 1 or 2 cars. They did have an arrest, so they had to do a transport that evening to Anchorage for jail. But overall, it went fairly well for the staff and out there. The weekend concerts have brought additional traffic, and we had a big concert series this weekend, so they had some additional activity, but they had good coverage here in town for it. And they've been trying to make a concentrated effort out there on Alyeska Highway, just being present, which has had some impact. Staffing is good right now. Station improvements here, the substation here, we're going to work with that. I plan to meet with Chief this week. Early next week, and we're going to walk through there and really get the details of what we want, and then we'll approach ACS, and we'll probably get a quote from ACS to see what those improvements cost, and then probably come back through PSAC and GBOS for funding if we're going to go that route with making those improvements. And in the past, the substation, we did make the improvements and we paid them off over 3 years, so we'll see what ACS would like to do for that. And then PSAC, as mentioned, was requested to go over and have a ceremonial signing of the new contract with Whittier, so that is scheduled. And as mentioned, the contract has been signed, so we do thank our partners over in Whittier for their blessing of the contract, and then the Anchorage Assembly as well. And now we're set for the next 3 years with extension for 2 more, so we have a total of 5 years all set up there with our policing contract. So those are the highlights at this point in time, and open up any questions anybody may have.
Questions? Okay, I should just recognize that we have actually the Mayor of Whittier sitting in our front row as well. So Dave, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for the work on the contract as well. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to, if there are no questions, we'll move on to Parks, Roads and Rec.
Sure. I should turn the camera to me. So with Parks and Rec, we're in winter operations, but we do thank for the different volunteers and opportunities that have been going on so far, and particularly the Nordic Club that put on a awesome ski solstice They did a great job with lights. If you're out there to see that, it was really a nice event for the community and for people all around came down for it. The trail groomers have been doing an amazing job trying to keep the snowpack in shape and skiable for everybody. The weather conditions aren't our best partner at this point in time, but we're hoping for better as we move further into January. But they've been trying to stay on it and dealing with out there. We do ask if the conditions are super soft out there that people don't walk around on the trails. The post holing gets quite bad and it takes us a lot of work to grind those post holes out. So if you can hold off and wait till it's hard and frozen or nice and firm, that's a lot out there. So as always, we are thankful for our volunteer, Don Davis, helping us with the garbage on every Monday and getting out there. Quick update on the suspension bridge. We have selected a firm, Reed Militant, who is our structural engineer and will be the project team leaders on the design of the new suspension bridge to replace the hand tram. And we are moving forward on that. Right now, we are negotiating fees with them, but we have set an aggressive schedule. And we have our partners with U.S. Forest Service, and then we brought in a third-party partner who will help us with verifying all the design is meeting specs. As we don't really have an engineering firm here in Alaska that's ever done a cable suspension bridge. So a company out of Montana who has done a lot of this for the Forest Service will be our partner on that going through it. So we're excited to get started on that. And we hope by fall to have all the plans completed and out the bid for construction in 24. With roads, moving into that area, just a quick update as our social media and websites are always up to date, thanks to Margaret. And we are working through several grant opportunities for the coming year and closing out several grants for trails and parks into this year. And we do post all our meetings on YouTube. Roads, December ended and January started very wet and has continued very wet for us here in the valley. We ripped through a lot of sand right there at New Year's going forward. Pretty much 2/3 of our pile because we had some really, really wet, icy events. We're trying to saturate the roads more now to limit the amount of sand that we have to buy. We are going to probably purchase 200 tons more sand to bring in, but buying it in the winter is just not the most ideal time to buy sand. But it's always sort of a calculated risk. We don't want to get too much sand and have a waste and then move it forward. So we feel all right, but we'll be using saturated edges to mush up roads, get them kind of traction again, because sand can only do so much. I should call it chips. They're just basically gravel that we put out. And we use gravel because it doesn't freeze as sand does, because we don't have a covered pile here. So we'll be working through that. We're just hoping for a flip here. We usually see it, always called January grinderwary. We get through January and then hopefully we start to see better weather coming into February and March out there. So budget wise, we are finishing up and we will be presenting sometime in February to the Girdwood Board of Supervisors a review of all the budgets and accomplishments for each department for 22. And with all the departments at this point in time, we are coming in under budget. So we will have some surpluses with most of our budgets. And just a large one that's always asked is with our road maintenance, our contractor that's so far well, pretty much we're done with all billing for them. We just paid the last one on Friday, and we spent $624,000 of the $700,000 contract with them this year. And that's just because we might have some slower time in the fall. We always leave a little reserve for fall because we just don't know what it's going to be like in that aspect. So, and then Parks and Rec, due to the fact that we didn't have full staffing, we have a bit of a surplus there, but we'll explain more of that as we haven't finished out all payments and everything. So, but at this point, we spent 91% of that. Roads at this point in time, about 95% of that. And then police were at 99%. So that's pretty calculated, but the only room we have in there is for towing, and we had a lot of towing this year, so we used up a lot of our budget there. And then for fire, at this point in time, we're at 93%, but the IGCs haven't been charged out much on fire. So we'll see that come in here as they wrap up this month and close out 22. So overall, we're probably about, on average, about 93-94% used budget this year. So we'll have a bit of a surplus that goes into our savings reserve for future projects. That's all I got. Open to questions.
Thank you. Any questions, guys?
Quick question on the firm. You've chosen that for the suspension bridge. That's, that is the design firm. It's not the, they're actually going to do the design of the bridge.
Yes, they're the full project management team, but they'll be doing the design. So
What was its name?
Reed Middleton. And they've worked on many projects here. They actually designed the whole fire station. They did the whole structural over there. And they've worked on, right now we have them designing a gazebo for Lions Club Park, which Lions Club would like to name after John Troutner. And so they're doing that work. They're very well respected in structural engineer. And we have a lady named Ellen who will be the project lead on that. And she's done many bridges. She's done a cable stay suspend bridge, which is basically a rigid bridge. It just has cables tied into it. She did that for Ellendorf and many other things. So we're excited to work with them. It's usually our go-to anyways on structural engineering. So.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Jennifer's gonna.
Jennifer?
I just wanted to say thank you for this incredible work with budgets coming in under, and also the amazing work you guys are doing on the grants. Thank you. I feel like you're really doing wonderful work for Girdwood, and I just want to take the opportunity to appreciate it.
Thank you. It's a team effort.
Thank you, Jennifer. Agreed. I had a couple of, well, grants and other things. I had a couple of other questions. So I believe we got to the, we got the 1.2 million for Rowan Road, a replacement in the
correct
federal approach.
Senator Murkowski got us 1.6 million
0.6, sorry, that's
for that.
right.
And so that's a huge thing. And our estimate was around 2 million. So the last we heard, the administration was going to work with us through AWU to help match that money, because there's the trunk sewer line that goes over that culvert, and that's why we have to do this box culvert design. So it'll be a partnership between the service area grant money and hopefully whatever AWU can put forward.
Okay, so the timescale for that is to work on the funding side and design side this year, and then potentially construction.
Correct. Yeah, and I'll have to find out. It's just we can't get started on anything until the money is appropriated to us. So we have to wait for the federal treasury to move it to us, and then we can get going.
Okay.
So, and I don't know what that's like. I haven't experienced that before.
Okay. And the other thing was the the same event, FEMA reimbursement, or at least state reimbursement. Sorry.
Yes. So it sounds like and that was a question. I didn't get a response because the people I work with were gone on holiday. So that was going to be my question this week, to find out where that was at. We basically had given them all the paperwork I had. They said they were ready to cut checks. And that was right in the last week of 22. And so hopefully we'll see that coming. Now, the thing I have to watch is once we get that check from the state, I got to follow that money to make sure that money gets back to the appropriate pools that it came out of. So that's always chasing finance and OMB to make sure it gets there. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from anyone? Okay, thank you so much, Kyle. We'll now move on to public comment. Persons offering public comment must state their full name and address. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. Must be on subjects not listed on the agenda. Would anyone online or in the Karen? Please go ahead. Actually, do you want to stand in the microphone?
Oh, over here?
Yeah, there.
Hi, I'm Karen Sakaro. I'm box 1376 Girdwood. I'm here to remind everybody that we had an awesome forest fair in 2022. Thank you to everyone that came out and volunteered. We are a community nonprofit, and hundreds of people came out this year. Everybody had a good time, and we raised a bunch of money. So we are giving back over $40,000 to various nonprofits throughout the community. We'll have a better list later on. And just want to say thank you to everybody, the GBOS and everybody in the community that helps put this together every year. And we are on track to start getting our permits in with Kyle for July 7, 8, and 9. Some people might get confused. It's supposed to be the first weekend in July. I got confused. I think the t-shirt lady doesn't like putting June 30. Yeah, anyway. July 7, 8, 9. Put it on your calendar. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Karen. Anybody else?
Yeah, hi, Mike. Zach Johnson, candidate for Anchorage Assembly. You mind if I give a real quick intro?
Yeah, sure. Welcome, Zach.
Yeah, hey, thank you. Yeah, running for Assembly to represent South Anchorage and Girdwood. I know you guys are busy. I'll keep it super short. I'm a Marine Corps veteran, former state trooper, also former volunteer firefighter and EMT with Girdwood Fire Department, and was president of Girdwood Volunteer Fire and Rescue for a couple years. Just running to take care of our roads, our schools, our first responders, things of that nature. I've been pretty outspoken about the need for Girdwood to have involvement and a say in the Holton Hills projects, as some of you might know me through that. You can find my information online. I got a website, social media, so if anyone has any questions or anything they want to discuss, please feel free to reach out anytime. So thank you guys, and I appreciate you.
Thank you very much. So, anybody else? Public comment? Okay, thanks everyone. So we'll move on to old business, item number 5. Update on current status of Iasca Highway Interchange Project. That's Road Supervisor, so Jennifer, go ahead.
Thank you, Mike. So yeah, there's the planning and zoning meeting last Monday in which this was brought up, and in the end it was approved, the trumpet design, but Commissioner Krishna added a condition that asked for a more detailed analysis of the alternatives, including environmental and emergency service impacts, safety, costs, and access. And what wasn't clear to me exactly the mechanism or what vehicle they wanted for that exactly. So in asking around, I think I wanted to ask the board about the possibility of asking for a third-party evaluation. Apparently this is done quite frequently. It's not a big thing to ask for, and it basically supports what the planning and zoning said was required. So it's, I was going to ask the board if we could, how you would feel about specifically requesting a value engineering review commissioned by DOT. And what that would basically be is another team of engineers looking at this and making sure that they haven't gotten all attached to one project without, or sorry, with one solution without fully considering other options, or maybe now, knowing what we know with more information, we could take another look at the original possibilities. So that's what I have to report about that.
Thank you. Would that be an action we would do tonight, or would that be an action we would form at a later meeting?
No, I thought about this. I think that there is time is of the essence kind of thing, and also the we have discussed it before, so this is basically just reiterating our position and trying to find another way to have it looked at rather than voting that. You know, we didn't get that trumpet voted down, but we did raise enough concerns that they asked for something very similar to this. So I guess what I'm specifically asking for is approval to continue on the path I think we're on, and that planning and zoning has opened the door to, and asking for third-party review, where I just ask, if nothing else, I would like to see more explanation about this trumpet, because I know, Mike, you and I have met with them, and I know I wasn't personally convinced that this really is the best possible design.
Right, you broke up a little bit in the middle there, but again, I think we caught what you said. So okay. Are you going to propose a motion that we vote on this and formally request the third-party evaluation process?
Yes, please.
You want to put that in the form of them? Do you want to put that in the form of a motion?
I would like to make a motion that we request a third-party evaluation consistent with planning and zoning's decision that more information is needed.
Okay. I'm not sure we're in a position where we can put that into a resolution form. I think it's reasonable to have a letter sent to P&Z and DOT or send to DOT probably, I guess, and then copy P&Z. Would that be with your agreement?
Sure.
Okay, so we have a motion. Can I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you, Amanda. Any further discussion? Guy?
Yeah, question. Thanks, Jennifer. So the process to request this value engineering study, that requires no funding from us, or is it additional funding? Is it something you have to pay for since it's a third-party study, or DOT covers all those costs?
In the past, DOT, my understanding, DOT has covered this cost, commissions it and covers the cost.
Sorry, you are breaking up too much now, Jennifer.
Oh,
we couldn't
sorry.
hear that.
All right, let me see if I can improve that. Is it any better now?
It is now, yes, thank you.
Okay, so my understanding, in answer to the question, is that in the past, DOT has commissioned and covered the cost for these. Yes, and that I am not asking for funding for that at this point. That would be a different decision and certainly a bigger one.
And quick follow-up on that. And a timeline on that. That sounds like it would require some time to complete. Do you have an idea on that?
No, I don't. That is kind of outside of my province. I don't have any idea how long these things would take or how long this specific one would take. So.
Thank you.
My understanding is this is something that P&Z have asked for, have put on as a condition, and we're just supporting that condition. So we're not asking for anything new here. We're just putting our support behind something that Planning and Zoning has already requested. That's my understanding. We have a question from the audience. Karen, do you want to come up and speak so everyone can hear you?
I just had a question.
Go ahead.
Yes, Jennifer, sorry.
Sorry, Mike, I just wanted to say one thing. I need to review the planning and zoning, but I did not specifically hear the words value engineering review. What I heard was more detailed analysis. So yes. I am asking third-party analysis and not a DOT analysis.
Right, understood. Karen, please go ahead.
Is this project determined whether it has to go through an EIS or a NEPA process is it federally funded or federal land involved?
It will be going through a NEPA process, EIS.
So it will.
It's not got there yet.
They just didn't have, they had to confirm what their concept, their main plan was, and this is what they're going with.
But they haven't started the NEPA process.
They hadn't confirmed their concept yet.
Okay, so and someone should verify this, but it's my understanding when you go through that process, if the public has a chance to ask questions and if alternatives are not, that's part of what has to be considered. If they do not show that all the alternatives have been considered, then they can't really move forward.
They just went through their whole alternatives process.
Oh.
And so they came down to the preferred alternative, and that's why they went to P&Z, and they got P&Z's support with this conditional. And now they're going to start the NEPA process.
Did they went through P&Z using the context sensitive solutions approach or process?
You're probably referring to LEDVA, right? To the NEPA process?
Yeah.
Environment, yeah. I believe that alternative analysis will be part.
That will come later.
Yeah, it has to be part of the NEPA, that process. So.
I think it's still a good idea to get a third party. I think
all I've been thinking.
Okay. Any further questions or discussion?
I have a comment. This is Brianna.
Brianna, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank Jennifer for this idea and for following through and all the community feedback that went through to this process before planning and zoning. And I think this would be the best approach we could take next, representing our community and in good faith and in earnest in what we were presented with in the last 2 years. Thanks.
Thank you. And I'll just offer if you need help on the letter, Jennifer, I'm happy to be the second pair of eyes on that.
Thank you.
Not hearing any more discussion, let's move to a roll call vote. So could you just restate the motion again, please, Jennifer?
So the motion is to write a letter requesting a third-party value engineering review of the DOT Seward interchange project and current design.
In accordance with the planning and zoning condition.
Excuse me. Yes. Yes.
Okay, roll call, please.
Yep, Mike Etchington,
Yes.
Guy Wade,
Yes.
Amanda Sassy,
Yes.
Jennifer Wingard,
Yes.
Brianna Sullivan.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. And thank you again for everything. Jennifer. Is there anything else you want to cover?
No, not me.
Okay.
Are you talking to me? I'm good.
Yes, just on item number 5. Okay, so we'll move on to item number 6, update on current status of Holden Hills project. And then we'll review and vote on GBOS resolution. So update on Holden Hills. I think probably everybody has been to every meeting. Current status, the Assembly postponed any action until their February 7th meeting, I believe. The first Tuesday in February. I can't remember, so I'll have to check. But it's their first meeting in February. They've postponed any action until then. I suspect there's going to be more discussions and other things happening between now and then. Maybe yet another version of the ordinance. I'm not sure. But that's currently where it stands. So there's no action from the Assembly yet. There was a work session down here on the 6th, which I think many people attended, and quite a lot of discussion at that. And then a very short discussion at the Assembly meeting last week when they decided to postpone. That's where things stand as far as the Assembly is concerned. Obviously, there have been lots of changes. I've seen lots of questions about how the recent concerns or, I suppose, revelations from the previous municipal manager, how that may affect things, because there's definitely been questions raised about procurement process and contract awarding. I don't know how that affects this particular project or how involved it was, how much that was involved with. So I think what we have now is we did discuss in our last 2 joint meetings having a resolution specifically talking about the S1 version of the ordinance, because we had not previously considered that. And we do have in the updated packet, which is also, I think, the one in front of us that was printed out at the front of the room, we do have a resolution draft sitting there. So I know not everybody has had a chance to read through this, so I'll give people a minute or 2 just to look through this. I could read it into the record as it stands. That makes sense. Actually, I will do that. I will read it out now. Or actually, I will ask somebody else to read it. I would try and read this. Would you like to read this into the record? Because not everyone has seen this. So if you read it, then it's a
I haven't seen it yet, but I could.
good test.
Okay, the resolution of support for the postponement of approval for the land disposal of Heritage Land Bank parcels 6-011, 6-016, and 6-017, known as Holden Hill, as described in AO 2022-103 S1 version. Whereas the Heritage Land Bank and CY Investments have entered into a development agreement for disposal of parcels mentioned above 6-011, 6-016, and 6-017 following the RFP process that secured 2 proposals. And whereas the proposed development is based on a Girdwood area plan from 1995, which is currently under review and update via robust public process, anticipated to be forward to the MOA for review in 2023. And whereas the proposed development is also based on the 2005 Crow Creek neighborhood land use plan, which is significantly outdated. And whereas the pressure of the lack of community residential housing in Girdwood has increased substantially in the last 5 years, while unregulated, unmanaged rental of housing units for nightly rental for recreation purposes has also increased. Whereas relying on plans that are known to be out of date and insufficient in dealing with issues involving workforce housing, mid-income housing, and short-term rentals is an egregious and unnecessary error which must be resolved prior to disposal of these and any other HOV parcels within Girdwood. And whereas GBOS previous resolution 2021-18 from August 2021 urged HLB to prioritize the need for community housing in Girdwood that was attainable and affordable to the working population of the community. And whereas the community of Girdwood, as individuals and through various organizations, including the Girdwood Chamber of Commerce, aka Visit Girdwood, Girdwood Community Land Trust, Girdwood Alliance, Girdwood Land Use Committee, Holden Hills Housing Advisory Committee, and Girdwood Board of Supervisors, have consistently spoken of the need for land disposal that addresses Girdwood's significant and urgent housing needs. And whereas development of this magnitude without consideration of the housing needs in Girdwood is likely to significantly widen the gap in availability of recreational housing compared to community homes, which is currently estimated at less than 40% community residential use. And whereas GBOS previous resolution 2022-14 and 2022-23 June 22, 2022 letter to the MOA and HOB and letter of objection to AO 2022-103 and AO 2022-103S have clearly stated that the project in its current form is not accepted by the community, which will be most impacted by the land disposal. And whereas GBOS and the community of Girdwood appreciate the extensive work that has gone into the S1 version and welcome the addition of language to acknowledge the nature of Girdwood housing crisis, more completely describe how HLB should assess value, quote unquote, in the municipality beyond financial return, as well as many other additions to the S1 version that are helpful in establishing a formal record of the Girdwood community's long-term goals for housing development. And whereas the Girdwood Board of Supervisors held joint meetings with the Girdwood Land Use Committee on January 4th and January 9th, 2023 to consider the S1 ordinance and the additional information provided in the January 6, 2023 Assembly work session. And whereas AO 2022-103 S1 version does not guarantee that housing is produced through this land disposable, nor that a substantial portion of the dwellings will be occupied by residents of the community, nor that the housing needs of Girdwood are met in any substantive way. And whereas in its current unamended form, GBOS determined by a vote of 5-0 that the S1 version does not provide adequate guarantees that the core needs of community housing in Girdwood will be advanced by this project. And whereas this action is supported by the public in attendance on behalf of the Girdwood Land Use Committee at the January 9 GBOS Land Use Committee Joint Special Meeting. And therefore, the Girdwood Board of Supervisors supports that disposals of parcels 6-011, 6-016, and 6-017 legally described in Trail 1 Prince Edition Alaska Subdivision Plat 87-131 PID 075-311-04-000 Track B Girdwood Elementary School Subdivision Plat 85-38 PID 075-31-32-000 and Track 9A Section 9 Township 10 North Range 2 East Plat 73-220 PID 075-041-31-000 be postponed until adoption of the 2023 updated Girdwood area plan, passed and approved by a vote on this day of 2023.
Thank you very much. You can see why I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
That's the most detailed resolution we've ever had.
Thank you. So that acts as a motion.
Now I need to read it.
Super. Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
This is Brianna.
I'll second.
Thank you. I think I heard both Brianna and Jennifer, so either. Okay, any comments, thoughts, or otherwise? Guy?
I do. I missed it when I was reading it. Is it included in here, the access to it for construction? I know that was the concern running by the school itself, and alternate access through Crow Creek Road during construction, not phase 2.
That's not included in this document, no. Previously we'd, I think the only comment we've made is we didn't support the set of conditions which were in the HLB Advisory Commission conditions, so that wouldn't be adequate. But we didn't say whether we would or not include these, some of them specifically. So if you have an amendment to make to add that, you can.
And we're voting on this today, right? This is going to be
I think that is the plan, yes, though it would be possible to do it at later. I mean, because we do not have the assembly action until the 7th, we at least have joint meeting next week. We could get some way through this, and then maybe if there's things to take away and change, we could do that. That's a proposal.
It may be worth mentioning the HLB Advisory Commission, because you're right, they had mentioned an alternate route and some other, I think, zoning things in here. I think this is well written. In my verbal reading of it, I did not see any mention of HLB Advisory Commission language.
No, I don't think it is in there, because previously we just said it wasn't enough in one of our previous, but we didn't actually go into each of the individual conditions.
But Jennifer's hand is up too.
Yeah, unless is there anything else you want to add there?
No, I might make a motion.
Yeah, okay. Jennifer, please go ahead.
Hey, I don't want to get too much in the weeds on this, but just a few quick comments, which I think are clerical to start with. On the whereas on the second page, the one that says development of this magnitude, I wonder if we could just tweak a little bit of wording. I think there's a potential confusion over widening the gap in the availability of recreational. I think that should say recreational homes compared to community housing. I think we should switch where homes and housing are. Would that make sense?
That makes sense. Do you want to make that as an amendment?
Yes.
Okay.
But I'm not sure. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if that's substantive, Mike, or clerical.
I think one can argue either way. What do you? I'm looking at Kyle and Margaret. Clerical or substantive?
I would say clerical.
Okay, I'm happy for that to be clerical then. So that could be a change which will just happen unless there's any objection. I'm not hearing any objections, so that now becomes a clerical change which will be done.
Thank you. And I have another, I think, clerical. That second whereas near the top reads a little awkwardly. I think it would be clearer if it said the proposed development is based on a Girdwood area plan from 1995, which is currently under review. I think if we got rid of the and
definitely clerical.
Okay. So if we continue from there, which is currently under review for, I don't know if we want and or for there for update by a robust public process. And then I think we need an and prior to anticipated. Did I lose you?
No, I was just going to respond. Okay, so do you want to read out that whereas in your wording?
Sure, if with everybody else's approval, it would read as, whereas the proposed development is based on Girdwood Area Plan from 1995, which is currently under review for update via a robust public process and anticipated to be forwarded to the MOA for review in 2023.
That again, to me, sounds like
I'll
a clerical
second the
change.
revision.
Yeah. Is there any objection from the board for those? It doesn't change the meaning at all. It's just a clearer expression.
Yes. Speaking of which, sorry.
Not seeing any objection, so that's going to be a clerical change. Please go ahead, Jennifer.
Sure. And then I had another question. I thought the Crow Creek neighborhood, this is stupid maybe, but I thought the Crow Creek neighborhood land use plan was actually passed in 2006. Was it 2005?
That's a good question. I can't recall that. I've seen this so many times. I believe it was 2006.
I think it was 6.
Yeah, I think it was 6. Brianna, sorry, did you have a
Everything
comment?
I've read says, sure, thank you, Mike, sorry to interrupt. Everything I've read also says 2006, but it could be that it was passed by the assembly in 06, but it could have been finished, written in 05 if it wasn't a typo or something.
Final
I
plan.
think we consider the adopted date. We used the adopted date, certainly 2006.
I'm looking at it right now, final plan, April 2006.
Okay, so that's 2006. So again, that's a typo. Okay, was there, did you have other comments, Jennifer?
One other comment, and this one is not necessarily clerical. So I truly do not want to start a firestorm, and this is not about, I'm just for clarity, under the fourth whereas, I'm a little concerned about putting unregulated, unmanaged rental of housing units in that whereas, and just hear me out here, that's not about combating STR regulation, that's about wanting to make it, I've been nervous about anyone trying to put forward the idea that just regulating our STRs is going to automatically generate the kind of housing that we need. So I think we all know, even if all of those STRs got converted back into residential housing, which, as you know, I doubt would happen because of the finances right now of long-term rentals. But my concern here is we're trying to pressure the assembly to recognize our need for proper development of this land. So I just wonder how the board would feel about ending it after the last 5 years, comma, move on to the next whereas. And again, this is about clarity. It is not about trying to take a stand on STR regulation.
That sounds like a motion or an amendment you're proposing.
Yes, that is. I think that one is not necessarily clerical. So that is an amendment I am proposing. So
to finish that, the fourth whereas the pressure of lack of community housing, etc., it would finish at the after 5 years, semicolon, and so the whole of the second section after the first comma would be removed. That's how I heard you. Is that correct? Yes. And my only other thought about that is I also don't know if it should be the pressure of or the pressure from the lack of, but that part's clerical. So let's just stay focused and not worry about that preposition right now. Do we hear a second from anybody?
I'll second.
Thank you. Thank you, Gavin. Any further discussion on this? Okay, not hearing any further discussion. We will move to a roll call vote.
Mike Edgington.
Oh, sorry, Amanda.
Amanda.
Do you have a comment?
I would just have a clarification. Now, the issue is that we want to stay focused, and that, Jennifer, you're concerned that it's distracting from the actual argument, right?
Yes, my concern is that it makes it seem like, through the chair, if this is okay, Mike, That my concern is that it makes it look like if we just manage our rentals, that it'll release the pressure on the need to develop community housing and at every chance we can get, but certainly out of this absolutely gigantic parcel of land. So this has truly, again, nothing to do with our need for regulating STRs and everything to do with keeping the pressure on the muni for developing some actual community housing in the acreage of Holton Hills.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Okay, any other comments from the community or board? I'm not seeing any. In that case, let's move to a roll call vote.
Mike Edgington.
This is just on the amendment.
Just on the amendment. Mike Edgington.
Yes.
Guy Wade.
Yes.
Amanda Sassy.
Yes.
Jennifer Wingard.
Yes.
Brianna Sullivan.
No.
That amendment passes 4-1.
Thank you. Hey, any other comments? Guy?
I'd like to suggest an amendment to it. Okay. Possibly just include some of that HLB Advisory Commission recommendations. Maybe whereas the S1 version did not fully take into consideration the recommendations from the HLB Advisory Commission as a conditional approval of the land disposal.
Tell me which whereas that's at. Is that a new whereas?
That's a new one.
Okay. And where do you want it within the document?
I'll make a suggestion if that's somewhere. Second page, maybe.
Yeah, I'm thinking
After
after we do speak of the S1, yeah, I think that would be.
Okay. Gotcha. Before the whereas for AO 2022.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'm sorry, could I hear it repeated?
Sure. Whereas the S1 version did not fully take into consideration the recommendations from the Heritage Land Bank Advisory Commission on the conditional approval of the land disposal.
I'll second.
Okay. I've got a couple of amendments after this. I've got a couple of amendments as well. So what I'm going to do, if that's okay with you, Brianna, is would you take the chair briefly?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yes, I can take the chair. And Kyle, if there's unexpected noise, please just mute me and then unmute me if people are talking. And I'm just unmuted. Thank you.
Okay.
So I'm just going to raise my hand and I'd like to respond to the amendment which Guy proposed.
Go ahead, Mike.
I would just a slight tweak in language, perhaps. I think when you said consider, it may have considered reduced and removed. It explicitly addressed some of the conditions. That's what I would say. It didn't address what the conditions are.
I actually had addressed and then I changed it to consideration.
Right. So. I mean, it may be they considered it and ignored some deliberately. Took them out. Yeah. But it definitely does not include all of the A1Cs.
Yeah.
Sorry. HLBAC. Okay, so if you want to adopt that as a friendly amendment, then you would have to.
I think that's correct.
I don't want to keep chairing, but then it would require the second to agree with that friendly.
Yeah, do we have a second for the friendly amendment? Go ahead. I can't see anything.
If Jennifer is happy to consider it and to accept it, then I think it just becomes the amendment.
Yes, definitely.
Brianna,
thank you, Jennifer.
Jennifer has her hand up next, Brianna.
Okay, thanks for telling me. Jennifer, go ahead.
I was just curious, making sure first that no one else had anything else to say about this. I seconded it because I really felt it was important to talk about. I'm not exactly sure how I feel about it. The HLB bringing this up again, and again, I'm just worried about kind of clarity. Our HHHAC had said they didn't consider the HLBAC recommendations to be enough, the amendments to be enough. But I also think it's relevant that the S1 doesn't meet the bare minimum of what HLBAC said was required, or said would meet the public good for them to approve of this land disposal. So I'm a little stuck on this, and would just love to hear other board members' thoughts about that.
Thank you, Jennifer. Kyle, is anyone else in the queue?
Mike Edgington.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've got very, thank you. I've got a similar concern to Jennifer. The HLB Advisory Commission process is kind of somewhat parallel, and we've already said we don't consider them adequate, and we didn't consider the merits of those requests. But I know there's a lot of concern from people who live on Crow Creek Road that saying all construction and traffic has to use Crow Creek Road is just pushing the problem somewhere else to a road that doesn't have a sidewalk or anything else. So I will not be supporting this amendment.
Thank you, Mike. And I'd like to say something real quick. I was thinking when, Guy, you brought this up, thank you for saying your thoughts, that the word consider, as the author of the S1, we don't know if they didn't consider it, or any of the assembly members that worked on it agreed or disagreed with HLBAC's recommendations at a lump sum. They may have.
Brianna, we lost you there.
HLBACs that we've already discussed. Sorry.
Brianna, you cut out there. We lost you there for a bit.
Okay. I heard you clearly saying that I cut out. I think I agree with Mike and Jennifer and what they were saying about it. Does anyone else have comments?
There's no other hands in the room and nobody online.
Okay. Are we then ready for a roll call vote on the amendment on the floor? Or would you like to keep your amendment, Guy?
Pardon me?
Would you like to keep your amendment and we could have a roll call vote?
Sure. I just, I know the HLB Advisory Commission did not support this land disposal without certain conditions. And I know some of them, like the Crow Creek Road, forcing that in, that's a tough one. I totally understand that. And so I don't know if there could be a happy medium there, but just to totally ignore their recommendations as advisory commission, HLB, that just seems strange to me that the assembly wouldn't take, their recommendations more into account. But, I understand that if the board, doesn't support it, I'm fine with that. But it seems like they put in a lot of work and listened to our community and tried to push the assembly into they did not approve this land disposal without these conditions. So I guess that's my final word on it.
Thank you, Guy. And I agree that I don't know if that was, I agree with whoever was thinking that the HLBAC recommendations were also really addressing something very complex. So to put strict conditions on it was maybe not possible to include in the S1. And the author may have considered it, but we don't exactly know that. So if there are no more comments, Kyle, we could do a roll call vote on the amendment on the floor.
Yes. Mike Edgington,
No.
Guy Wade,
Yes.
Jennifer Wingard,
No.
Amanda Sassy,
No.
Brianna Sullivan.
No.
That motion fails 4-1-1-4.
Okay, do we have more amendments to the resolution?
Mike,
If your hand is up.
Okay, I have one which I think falls into clerical. In the therefore, beginning of second line, it says legally described as trail, and that should be tracked one. And then I'm not sure if it's track 1 or track 1A. I think there's something, but we should just check that, but it's track like that. I'm actually going to propose 2 amendments, but I'll start with a simpler one. 1, 2, 3, 4. On the 5th, whereas, it says, whereas relying on plans that are known to be out of date and insufficient in dealing with issues involved workforce housing, mid-income housing, and short-term rentals. I do not like the phrase is an egregious and unnecessary error. So my amendment would strike the words is an egregious and unnecessary error, which, and replace it with another phrase, but I can't read my own writing. Actually, I think which should be resolved prior to disposal.
So just strike that
Instead
line.
of must.
Yeah, so actually, which must be, I think if we just strike the words is an egregious and unnecessary error, that's actually why I changed my amendment slightly too. So if we strike the words is an egregious and unnecessary error, I think it reads correctly. Let me just try that again.
Do we have a second for the?
Sorry, I'm just still trying to work through wording. That doesn't quite work.
Sure.
So it's just that phrase is like, I think a little low it goes a little too far, goes too far, and is not necessary to make the point. So I'm just trying to think what the right thing to replace it with.
Does anyone else have their hand up for a suggestion? Or that's not the amendment, the person making the amendment, so never mind.
Mike,
Yeah,
with Brianna's person, how about is unacceptable and must be resolved?
yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
I was thinking of moving insufficient around, but unacceptable is better.
Okay. Were you wanting to read it one more time, Mike, or we're still working on it?
No, actually, I'll read it one more time. So my amendment now we've worked through this, is to strike the words from the 5th whereas an egregious and unnecessary error and replace it with is unacceptable and must be resolved prior to disposal.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Do we have a second for the amendment?
I'll second.
Thanks, Jennifer. Any other discussion? This is Brianna. I appreciate the amendment because it's so early on. It also did seem a little firm or harsh, but we do want to make it have an impression. So unacceptable is great. And last words. Any other comments?
No hands.
Okay. Are we ready for a roll call vote? If yes, Kyle, go ahead.
Mike Edgington?
Yes.
Guy Wade?
Yes.
Brianna Sullivan?
Yes.
Jennifer Wingard?
Yes.
Amanda Sassy?
Yes.
Amendment passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you, Kyle. Are there any other amendments to the resolution?
This is my
Go ahead,
final
your
amendment.
hand is up.
Mike,
Yeah,
last one.
that
Go
one.
ahead.
Yeah, this is my only other one. It's both the second and the third whereas kind of say the same thing, but about different plans. So what I was going to propose is, the second one kind of conflates two issues. That it talks about the Girdwood area plan from 95 being very out of date, and that we're working on a new one. And then the third whereas talks about the 2006 Crow Creek neighborhood land use plan being out of date. So my proposal was to combine, basically to replace those two whereases with two different whereases. The first whereas would be talking about the out of date plan. So whereas the proposed development is based on a Girdwood area plan from 1995, and also to the 2006 Crow Creek neighborhood use plan, both of which are significantly outdated. So that would be the first whereas. And then the second whereas would be, whereas the Girdwood area plan is currently being updated and is anticipated to start a municipal adoption process in fall 2023.
Thank you, Mike. Do we have
I
a
think that
second
just cleans up
amendment?
that section.
Thanks, Mike. Sorry to cut you off. Do you have a second?
I'll second that, but I would also like to hear the second whereas again, but I am seconding it.
Thanks, Jennifer. Okay, go ahead first, Mike, to repeat for clarification.
Okay. So the second whereas would become, so the first whereas stays the same in the document. The second whereas becomes, whereas the proposed development is based on a Girdwood area plan from 1995 and also the 2006 Crow Creek neighborhood land use plan, both of which are significantly outdated. And then the third whereas would become, whereas the Girdwood area plan is currently being updated and is anticipated to start the municipal adoption process in fall 2023. And then the fourth whereas is the same.
Thank you.
Okay, any discussion? Kyle, you can call on anyone if you see a hand or in the room.
Yes.
Okay. Going on. Any other discussion? Okay, let's go for a roll call vote on the amendment on the floor.
Mike Edgington.
Yes.
Guy Wade.
Yes.
Brianna Sullivan.
Yes.
Matt Dassey. Say it one more time, Amanda. You cut right out. I didn't hear you.
Yes.
Jennifer Wingard.
Yes.
That amendment passes 5-0.
May I take the
Thank
chair
you,
back now? Can I take the
You
chair
may,
back
and
now?
thanks everyone for your work.
Thank you.
Yes. I said
Thank you very much, Brianna.
thanks.
Right. So we
Thank
have an amended motion still in front of us. Please, Guy, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, the motion to support this, right?
Yeah, I think unless there are any more amendments, we now have this in front of us as an amendment.
I just have a question to the authors of this. It might be going back in time too far and we don't need to consider it, but, you know, in the original proposal, it was a team of three: Seth Anderson, Pomeroy, and CY Investments. By April 2022, when the development agreement was written, it was just CY Investments. You know, those two other entities brought, at least in the proposal, a lot of value to the development. And I don't know, did you consider mentioning, you know, it's kind of water under the bridge almost, but did you consider including some language in there that the actual proposal and that included affordable housing, workforce housing, was very different than what the development agreement looked like?
Yes. I think the problem is there's, you know, half a dozen different ways that there are fairly significant problems in this proposal. And to keep it relatively clean and focused, it's I think we've already made statements on much of this. So I didn't feel it was necessary to do so again. This is more targeted towards what's in the current proposed S1 version.
Sure. Okay.
But I mean, we can obviously add more if you wish.
I didn't know if it was discussed during the putting together of this letter.
Yeah, well, this is very similar to this is basically taking language from a letter we were going to send last week, but due to a variety of reasons, including the pending postponement of the issue, we never actually sent. So in the discussion of that letter, it did come up about how far we should go back into all of the issues, or just focus on what was in front of us.
No, I understand it is a little bit water under the bridge, but it is significantly different than what we're seeing now. So.
Agreed, yes.
Jennifer.
I don't want to drag this on, but I did want to support what you're both saying in a way. I mean, I think, Guy, it's sort of water under the bridge, but a lot of those things, not only what you mentioned, but also just the whole RFP process and the secretive nature of a development agreement. There's so many things that are problematic, but I would support not having them in whereases here, partly because some of these things have been addressed by city attorneys. I think they're still questionable, but I don't think that they're going to resonate as well. Since this is specifically for the assembly, I want to stay focused on things that might resonate for the assembly. So I would support the way it's written, but I would also agree with you that those issues are still issues. I just think we might need to raise them in other venues.
Yep, no, I agree with that.
Okay, any other comments from the board or community members?
Mike, I have one.
Please go ahead, Brianna.
I just wanted to thank everyone for the amendment and keeping the focus. I appreciate the ideas and the collaboration as we do this on the phone and in the room. So thanks for your patience.
Thank you. So I think we can move forward to roll call vote. So this is the on the resolution itself as amended.
Mike Edgerton.
Yes.
Guy Wade.
Yes.
Brianna Sullivan.
Yes.
Amanda Sassy.
Yes.
Deborah Wingard.
Yes.
That motion as amended passes.
Thank you, everybody. Just going to go back to the item and make sure there was nothing else we had to cover. Okay. Right. I think we can now move on to item number 7. That took almost an hour, but not quite. Item number 6. Item number 7, update on holding racial equality, equity community discussions via Alaska Humanities Forum. Guy.
Sure. Yeah, thanks. I've been working with the Alaska Humanities Forum since this last fall to develop a series of conversations here in Girdwood about racial equity to connect people and build stronger communities and relationships. Person I was working with, Olivia Frank, she is resigning. So at the beginning of January, we're hoping to start these conversations in January. We're going to be a little delayed, but we're still pushing forward, and hopefully mid-February, into February. We did discuss during our last GBOS meeting option 2 and paring that down to 2 or 3 of the conversations. I think what we landed on was the, and then after discussions with the forum there, starting with the salmon berries and Sagaloo, then alternate realities, class and race, and then the final series of We Are a Race, Land, and Culture. So each one of those are in more detail in the packet in front of you. They did resubmit a proposal that just included 3 conversations, which is kind of straight line less than the original 5 conversations. So it's 1605. I think we've already budgeted for this, and I would recommend we just keep that original budget in case we need to, there's additional cost. I don't foresee any. I did talk to, I did get a verification from Four Valleys Community School that they will help with the, they will take the registration, and we can work that through them. So now it's just a matter of scheduling times in the community room. They recommend at least 12 people and no more than 25. So I think we could hold these in our community room, and just looking at our working more with the forum, of course, and then looking at our schedule and setting a series of 3 conversations up over the next month and a half, 2 months.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board, from the community? Okay, thank you very much, Guy, for pushing this through and getting us to a point where we can acting on it. Item number 8, agenda item LUC 220106, Girdwood Industrial Park concerns. I gathered a set of concerns and problems at the industrial park, many of which we knew about, and then there's a lot of questions about access and problems of access at the moment, but both within the packet and from other people who have permits down there. So I think it's pretty clear there hasn't been a lot of response from HLB recently. So what I think we should do is have this on the meeting with the MOA next week. I know we're covering that later, but I think that's what we'll do immediately for the industrial park and raise the profile of that.
Yep, and we received some emails about that today, and we included them in the packet about people's.
And I've received comments from other people as well, so it's not just the one permit holder. There's several permit holders that have problems with access, as well as other issues that people.
And I think you guys have already put it on the agenda, so we'll talk about it later on.
Okay, any other issues on industrial park? Any other comments on that? Not, we will move on to item number 9. Discuss parliamentary procedure training options for GBOS committees. Jennifer.
Thank you, Mike. I talked with staff about this week. I realized it makes more sense to talk about this once, if we have a different board. I think it makes more sense to talk about this in May rather than either working on training this board prior to it changing over, or alternatively making decisions about a different board. So I wasn't entirely sure how to handle this on the agenda, but through talking, we decided I'll at least say that much, and then hope that we can keep this an active interest and revisit it in May. Okay. Or June, however long it takes.
Let's make this do this as a formal action then, just so it's clear for the record. So if you want to make a motion to postpone this item until the May meeting.
I will make a motion to postpone this until the May meeting.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Guy. Second. I think we can do this probably by consent. Are there any objections to moving this to the May meeting? Hearing no objection, we will move item number 9 to the May meeting. Item number 10, review and approve GBOS resolution of support passed in concept at the December 2022 meeting for CERT funding from emergency management funds not to exceed $2,000 and community wildfire protection defence funds of TBA. Chief West.
Hello there again. This is just a resolution, which I believe you have in draft form, to support asking the municipality to remember the Girdwood community when they have federal and state funds for homeland security and forestry, for federal forestry, for using for replacement of the brush truck and also the Girdwood CERT team. Girdwood CERT team is funded by normally LEPC funds that are passed through from the state, from Homeland Security to the state, that pass through to the municipality of Anchorage, Office of Emergency Management, and then we know that there's forestry funds available that will, in the future, that will forestry defense funds for brush truck replacement.
Okay.
Good. So the resolution that you sent out most recently, are there any changes from the one you read in the packet?
I just clarified, a few things, just adding in Homeland Security and Forestry versus state and federal agencies. I think that was the biggest thing I did.
So I guess I'm still confused about whether we have a new agenda item under new business with regard to the brush truck.
No, I don't think we do. No.
Okay, yeah. So then the revised packet does have the right thing. Okay, thanks.
So back to the revised packet.
Yep, sorry.
Okay.
You're doing a great job jumping around there though. Okay.
Sorry.
So this is the document that's printed out in front of us. Correct, right.
What is it here?
Any other questions from the board or from the community? Okay, I do have one question, Chief. So, does the funding only come to the municipality, or is there possibly for us or for?
My understanding in talking to the State Emergency Operations Center Director is that it goes directly to the Office of Emergency Management for CERT. And then we are aware of the forestry money that's passed through from federal government to the state that was then the municipality of Anchorage is applying for those needs. And we asked for them to add our needs into their needs. Whereas I think they were probably going to use them for staffing positions. We want to remind them, after talking to forestry, that there is the ability to request equipment. And for our small community, replacing the brush truck, it makes much more sense for us to ask for the brush truck.
Right. So other communities that are not part of a formal municipality, do they have can they apply directly or get this funding directly?
My understanding.
Okay, but because we're within Anchorage.
That's my understanding in talking to the municipality.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Please go ahead, Guy.
Was it intentional? There was some dollar amount involved with the CERT funding that wasn't included in this resolution.
Yeah, any funding actually would be great. So, I took that out because truly any funding would be great.
Understood. Yep. You can read this or
do you want to make take this document and just, you don't have to read it to the record, but if you want to make a motion.
Sure, yes. I would like to make a motion that we approve this resolution of support for the municipality of Anchorage to apply for funds on behalf of the Girdwood Fire Department.
Thank you. Do we hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jennifer. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Not seeing anything, so we can move to a vote.
Mike Edgington?
Yes.
Guy Wade?
Yes.
Jennifer Wingard?
Yes.
Amanda Sassy?
Yes.
Brianna Sullivan? Brianna, let me just hold on a second. We were having she's having problems with her phone. All right. I can't bring you off mute, Brianna. I'm sorry. We'll have to move forward with that, Brianna. So that motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. We will now move on to item number 11, set agenda topics for the MOA GBOS quarterly meeting on January the 23rd at Anchorage City Hall. We have the agenda in front of us. It's in the packet.
Yep, get to it here.
There are 5 items currently listed. We are going to add an item about the industrial park. So I'm suggesting we had an item for the industrial park. Any other changes?
I have a question for Chief Weston. Now is appropriate.
Yep.
Do we need to consider the radios during this meeting?
I think it wouldn't be bad for us to talk about the radios at this meeting. Yeah, to begin that conversation.
Big ticket item.
Yeah, the future 2004 big ticket item. Yeah.
Follow-up question. So item number 4 on that list, EMS request, is this the issue about backup?
Yes. So I think it would be more, and I don't think it's going to be resolved in that meeting, but it would be nice just to mention it. And maybe all those issues could be in one little Girdwood fire, instead of us being number 1, number 2, or 3 or 4, we could just be Girdwood fire issues, right? And we could just be one.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that we can both combine those into a single item and just have those 3 bullet points plus the
Radio.
Yeah. So it'd be EMS backup.
EMS station move up.
Right.
Yeah, well, maybe a first quarter budget revision for EMS. Right. So which is generated from the station move up issue,
Okay.
which is generated from medic becoming BLS versus ALS.
So how do you want it titled? I'm a little confused. You want the Girdwood EMS?
Girdwood Fire Department issues.
Yeah.
Well, I understand that, but
I would say the third one is the issue of EMS backup. I think.
backfill.
Yeah.
Okay. EMS backfill.
Station move up is it correct?
Station move up, sorry.
Is the correct word.
And then radio is being pulled at some point. Okay, and then we also have the issue of the industrial park.
Okay.
Right.
Put that as a standalone. Yep.
We'll still have 5. Okay, any other changes or comments? Hey, thank you. We will move on. We're getting through these very quickly. Item number 12, Gain Fire Department. Request for funding of approximately $46,000. Received from out of area response revenue to the Girdwood Fire Department operating funds. I see a note that this is likely to be deferred.
Yeah.
So this is a request for effectively appropriation through to the other fund, I believe.
And so this is the AFISA money. So this is Kenai Peninsula Borough money and also the City of Whittier money that's paid for our responses out of service area for 2021 and 22 to be encumbered back to the fire department.
Right.
But we were going to wait, I believe, until February for the year end to happen.
Okay, so we'll just push that to next month. Unless there's if there are any questions, we can take them now.
Well, I just have a question.
Sure.
So this will show up as old business, I assume, in February. And what kind of action do we need to take on this? I'm not sure if there's an action that GBX needs to
We need to move it to the right fund.
Or just,
So the way it works is we go on the runs and do the labor. Then the communities the AFD false alarm or AFD false alarm, but it's actually AFD billing, bills the invoices. I check the invoices. They go to the different jurisdictions. And then Kenai Peninsula Borough, City of Whittier, and then they pay the municipality of Anchorage. I believe it's deposited in the service area account, but it's not directly refunded to us unless we do this action.
does it go back to in the 406 account or
I think it
Goes to your undesignated fund.
Designated fund.
undesignated funds? Okay.
Yep. So what we'll show when we do the summary, we can show you the revenue streams that came in for 21 and 2. And then whatever those are is probably went into, unless there was some overruns. Some revenue also covers overruns, like if there's a lot of mechanical or other expenses that weren't budgeted for. Revenues always help us make that up so we don't have our budgets go over. So we'll give a summary on that when we do the year-end report.
So we really need to see the IGCs then in order to.
We need to see the close of business for both. Got it. We got 21 closed. We need to see the close of business for 22.
Then we have some debt.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so AFD Finance in October was telling me there was 18,000 in one year and or 22,000 in the other year, but we still have to wait for the year end for.
Understood. Okay, so we're postponing that to next month. I noticed that Teams just said we have 5 minutes left, which is optimistic.
That's fine. It's just a scheduling thing.
Yeah. So item number 12, we've dealt with. Item number 13, a GTC request for Parks and Rec 406 account funding to split the cost for trail crew work in 2023. This would be Brianna or Kyle.
I can take it. Basically, we are seeking a grant through to split the cost between GTC and the Girdwood service area to fund a trail crew that would come in and basically give us 3 weeks on the ground and just be focused on trail crew work. Last year we had no trail crew work. We had significant damage on the beaver pond we haven't gotten to, and then other areas that just have fallen due to deferred maintenance. So we are seeking grant opportunities to do that. And GTC, through their own fundraising, would match half of it. And then we would come up with the other half match, and then we would ask for the grant there with it. So that's what we're looking for. We'd be using it on the 406 account, so $8,000.
Okay, great. So can we have this, perhaps Brianna, in the form of a motion?
Brianna may be having.
Motion.
Oh, there she goes.
Yeah.
We can hear you now, Brianna.
Can you move to, or I would entertain a motion to encumber $8,000 from the Parks 406 account to be used as a match to GTC's contribution for, or to match against KMTA community grant application.
So moved. This is Brianna.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
Oh,
Thank you. I think Guy just beat you there, Jennifer. So Guy seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. Let's do a roll call, please.
Mike Edgington.
Yes.
Guy Wade.
yes.
Jennifer Wingard.
Yeah.
Brianna Sullivan.
Yes.
Amanda Sassy.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. And then we have one more item underneath item 13, which is GBOS resolution of support for KTMA community grant application, which is the other part of this. I see something in the resolution in the packet. Would anyone like to speak to this?
I can do it.
Mike,
So this
is Brianna. Oh, is Aaron there? And Mike, or sorry, Kyle or Aaron. Thanks, Kyle.
Yeah, I think we're still on the same item here. So this is the overall grant resolution for that we're going to be seeking for $28,000 and part of our grant match there. So we're just seeking support of GBOS to pursue this KMTA grant.
The mid-cap grant section is highlighted. Is that for any particular reason?
I think just to remind me to make sure that that was matching
Okay.
the amount that we were asking for. So that is, I think, within the mid-cap category.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So is that so Brianna, can you again, can you make a formal motion?
Yes. I move that GBOS resolves to support KMTA community grant application not to exceed $28,000.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Do we have a second?
I'll second. This is Amanda.
Thank you, Amanda. Any further discussion on the resolution? Not seeing any. Let's move to a roll call vote, please.
Mike Edgington.
Yes.
Guy Wade.
Yes.
Brianna Sullivan.
Yes.
Amanda Sassy. I heard that. I think it was a yes. And Jennifer Wingard.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Right, now we move on to item 14. US Forest Service and Girdwood Trails Committee requests for GBOS resolution of support for a transportation alternative program, TAP grant funding, the connector trail from the lower Iditarod National Heritage Trail to the Bird to Girdwood Trail to be applied for through the USFS in collaboration with Girdwood Parks and Recreation. We do not have a total project or a match. And then a comment here that it may need to be expedited, expedited, sorry. Are you able to speak to this, Kyle?
I think we might have Aaron Boone.
Aaron?
Yes.
Yes, I'm online.
Thank you, Aaron.
Good
Please go
evening,
ahead.
everyone. Okay, thanks. I'm Aaron Boone, community member and engineer for the Forest Service, representing the Forest Service tonight for this project we're working on to connect the lower Iditarod with the Bird to Girdwood Trail and a possible trailhead somewhere in the lower valley. A little bit change of plans tonight. I had a discussion with DOT this week, and they're recommending that we wait for the next TAP funding cycle. mainly because it's difficult for them to develop an accurate cost estimate for the project because it's so dependent on the highway project, which is still in preliminary design. And we're not sure exactly what that's going to look like yet. They were also concerned that construction of the trail connection wouldn't take place until likely 2026 or 27, along with, following the highway project. And so we are still having discussions with them, and we're also looking at other funding mechanisms to at least get the design started alongside, kind of in parallel with the highway design. But for tonight, I'd like to if we can just leave this on the agenda for next meeting. I think it could be really valuable still to have a letter of support from GBOS for other funding sources that we might look at. But I think we're okay not getting one tonight, and hopefully find out more in the next couple weeks.
Okay, is it reasonable to postpone this to March, or should we keep it on the agenda for next month?
I think I'd like to keep it on for February in case anything changes with the TAP funding. And I'm still on the agenda for Trails meeting next month for this topic, but yeah.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
We may need to change the wording a little bit because we're not going to be able to make a commitment to an unknown amount of money, but that will be, as when we discover exactly what the purpose of the resolution turns out to be.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so I think we'll move this to we'll keep this on the agenda for next month. Move on. Thank you very much, Darren.
Thank you.
We're now moving on to new business. Item number 15, discussion of how Girdwood can address long-term housing needs. I will start this briefly. This is a topic which has come up quite a lot in the Halton Hills discussions. There's a multiple different set of ways we can do this. The area plan has already in the vision, goals and policy statements has already identified that we need a sort of an action housing plans for housing action plans term. So that's already suggesting there's a specific piece of work that has to be done. It could be done in parallel. It doesn't necessarily have to wait till the area plan completes. We could probably do it in parallel with that plan, but there's kind of a lot of ideas around at the moment of how we can deal with our the longer term housing needs, and going from an idea or a concept to something that's actually implementable is a bunch of work. It's like going from a very rough drawing of a house of what you want in your house to engineering diagram. There's quite a lot of work in that. So one of the ways to do this is to have a specific plan. We put together a housing action plan to say exactly what policies would work here and what policies we're going to push for. So that's what I would suggest we put our effort, but we don't have to make a decision now. We just have this on the agenda for a later discussion, or we can continue the discussion now. Any other guy? Please go ahead.
Question. How does this fall outside the realm of the, I guess, housing committee or what we might vote on in April? Is that something they would address?
It could fall within that. There is an interesting question, which I have not got a resolution to yet, but I believe I think it's one of the things that was put on the list for legal interpretation of whether a service area can spend money. We have to have a very specific action and a vote of the voters, or a ballot from the voters, approval from the voters to raise money for a particular purpose from taxes. There is a question about whether the service area can be given money for a specific purpose from the assembly and then spend money. So if a grant from the assembly came to do something, whether we could actually spend it, even though it isn't technically one of the service area things. So there may well be other ways of funding it, even if we don't end up with this particular housing service. So that is not clear, and it's not a question realised was a question until a recent discussion. So there may be other ways of funding. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
There may be other ways of getting this funded.
Yeah. Okay.
Whether or not the April ballot passes. Brooks, and then Michelle, I believe you had your hand. Brooks, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, thanks, Board. I just wanted to say that the number one thing to address long-term housing needs is to make sure that the largest parcel of available land doesn't get conveyed with no mechanism or even a portion of it to be used to address long-term housing. So sort of defeating the S1 and the proposed development agreement with CY would be number one on my list. Number two is you will need a strategy that involves fairly extensive regulatory changes. There's lots of examples in other communities across the country, but they need to be, we need to discourage the growth, if not stop it completely, of short-term rentals because they have a direct impact on long-term housing needs. And then third, I think Mike's touched upon this, you do need some kind of a funding mechanism in place. And how the April vote probably directly impacts that component, but it really is going to be, it's going to take kind of an all of the above approach to deal with this on a long-term basis. And it is going to be kind of a long time in coming together. So that's my comment. I think there's enough energy around the issue in the community right now that, as the sort of drama continues with the assembly, you might as well start trying to build on the familiarity people have had with the underlying policy issues to put something together. It probably is a component of the area plan update.
Yeah, that will make sense, bro. The way that, well, when you look at how other communities start this, other resort communities start this, they typically bring together, a number of interested parties together, which is not, it may be funded by local government, but it's not run by local government. And then, so it would be, employers, non-profits, potentially people who are in the position of doing real estate development as well, community members, etc. They bring together a group, and that kind of just goes through the specific issues of what's doable and what's achievable in the community, and what is the highest priority and lowest priority, and that's where the action plan would come from. So it wouldn't necessarily be a local government run the thing, but that's one of the places where funding could come from to get an expert in place to go through this process. So I think there's a distinction between getting the funding together to start to kick something off that can end up with an executable plan, and then the funding sources will need to actually execute on that plan. Okay, any other? Crystal?
I had submitted a presentation and presented at Land Use Committee, and I didn't know if I was expected to present on that tonight or if I should just make reference to it being in the packet, but did give a presentation in response to Meg Zelatel's question of what could be done now in regards to Girdwood housing, and that was kind of the momentum for why the presentation was put together. So I guess would wait for feedback from the chair if I should be moving into a presentation on that, or just reference for community members and GBOS members to take a look at.
I think I would suggest the latter. It's in the packet and I've looked at it, and obviously I listened to the presentation at Land Use and I really enjoyed it. So I think it's probably worth just mentioning to supervisors that there is a at least some really good ideas coming from non-profits in the community of how to deal with both short-term issues, and I know they're thinking about longer-term issues as well. Because I think that's the point I think I would take from this. There's whatever we do in the long term is going to take some time. As Brooke said, there's not a lot of steps, there's regulatory changes and everything else, but there are potentially some things we can do in the short term that could be in place in, within a year, that would require kind of some effort to maybe make emergency changes to, or short-term changes to regulation, and to free things up for a limited period of time. Well, there's different models of doing that, but there's things we could do kind of now which could have an impact very quickly, separately from how we solve the bigger problem in the long term. I think that's the value of the presentation, which has been put together here, of throwing out some ideas or giving some ideas for what we can do in the very short term as well. Is that a fair summary, Crystal?
It is, and I'll just finalize it by one last statement, which I know you guys have heard from me on numerous meetings in numerous years, and that is without land, we will never get to a solution, and especially one that is not locally managed. And, I think community-led and community-supported development is the path forward for Girdwood. And so encourage anybody else to take a look at that, and anybody else that wants to get involved with Girdwood Community Land Trust. We would welcome expertise and professionals in the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Crystal. Any other questions or comments from the board or community? Michelle, I did promise you.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate what I heard. Just in reflection of what you said was that the funding for a housing study or accompanying that could come to a board other than the Girdwood service area. It could also go to a nonprofit from the assembly or.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then along with housing, I just would like us to remember that there's also needs for, as we bring in more housing, non-emergent medical care in the evenings and on weekends. So just like to shoot that out there as well.
Did you say non-emergency?
Non-emergent medical care on the evenings and weekends. So as we start to bring in more people to the community, we need to think about places that those people can go for medical care that isn't just an ambulance, right? So I wanted to bring it up.
Thank you. Any other comments on this item? If not, we will move on to item number 16, which is GTC and LUC agenda item LUC 2301-05, GBOS review and vote regarding the Girdwood Trails plan. So I don't know if Brianna or Kyle is going to start.
I'll let Brianna talk first, then I can talk fill in.
Okay, thank you, Kyle. And I would like to make a disclosure on number 16.
Okay.
I am still on the board of the Girdwood Nordic Ski Club, which is all volunteer and a nonprofit organization in the Valley. So it's the same disclosure I've made before.
Okay, I'm just pulling up the set of questions we have to go through. This will take me a few seconds. I should have done this already. Where we go through code of ethics. Right, okay. So we have a set of questions we have to go through to determine whether something is of substantial financial or private interest. So I will ask the questions and you can answer, Brianna. So this will be a private interest, I think, so I'll just say it, those two. So whether the private interest is a substantial part of the matter under consideration?
No.
Okay. Is the private interest directly, or financial or private interest directly and substantially varied with the outcome of the official action?
I think that's substantive.
I think, yeah, directly and substantially. Does the interest directly and substantially vary with the outcome of the official action?
Yes.
Okay. Is the financial private interest immediate and known or conjectural and dependent on, I can't read it, dependent on factors
Oh, the
beyond?
conjectural.
Conjectural, okay. Is the financial private interest significant monetarily?
No.
Financial private interest of a type which is generally possessed by the public or a large class of persons to which the member belongs?
Generally accessible by the public.
Okay. Are there any other factors that are appropriate to consider for this matter?
No.
Okay. So I have a ruling that I would rule based on this information that the interest is not a substantial financial or private conflict of interest. But what I would appreciate if the board is happy to do so is to take a formal vote anyway on this. So Brianna will not be voting, but the other four of us can. The question is, given the answers to the questions which Brianna has provided, does Brianna being on the board of directors of the Girdwood Nordic Ski Club raise to a substantial conflict of interest on the matter of the GTC, on the matter of the Girdwood Trails plan or not?
You have a hand up. I don't know if that's
okay. Jennifer.
Yeah, just a quick question. Sorry, isn't this normally the decision of the chair and related question, is there precedence for the whole board voting on it?
It is a matter for the chair, but I can also decide to punt it, which is what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I caught that.
I think this is one of these things that would be valuable for everyone to have have a statement on the record for.
Okay.
Want me to call for roll call?
I think technically it would need to be, well, I'm kind of punting it to the board. I think it technically still would need to be seconded. So is somebody other than Brianna prepared to second it?
Sure, I'll second it.
Okay, Guy second. So now we have a roll call for four of us.
Okay. Mike Edgerton?
So sorry, I should have stated clearly what yes and no means. So we are voting on whether Brianna has a substantial interest. So I would be recused from this particular item. So yes would mean she's recused, and no would mean she's not recused. So I vote no.
Guy Waite?
No.
Jennifer Wingard?
No.
Amanda Sassy?
No.
All four no.
Thank you. Thank you. Just helpful doing that more formally today. Okay, thank you very much. So we've just dealt with the issue of recusal for Brianna. Does anyone else have a conflict on this? I would raise one comment if Brianna could take chair briefly.
Yes, Mike, I'll take chair.
Just that my spouse is, I believe, vice chair on the Girdwood Trails Committee. So wanted to disclose that. Treasurer, sorry, treasurer. Toby vice chair. So.
Thank you, Mike. And that was a new position on Trails right now?
Apparently treasurer is a new position. Yeah, she was vice chair, now she's treasurer.
They just voted.
They just voted last meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. And sitting as chair for this moment, I do not have a list of questions in front of me. So could I ask staff to ask the questions because that is a family member? Or
Sure, could I borrow your list?
Yeah, sure.
I'll read it.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
It's sorry, I've got some mess on my screen. Let me just.
It seems like in the Board of Ethics in this, they mentioned that
1 through 6.
typically community members are on different boards, and that doesn't raise the level of conflict. So whether the financial or private interest is a substantial part of the matter under consideration.
Yes.
whether the financial or private interest directly and substantially varies with the outcome of the official action.
Yes.
Whether the financial or private interest is immediate and known or conjectural and dependent on factors beyond the official action.
Medium no.
Whether the financial or private interest is significant monetarily.
No.
Whether the financial or private interest is of a type which is generally possessed by the public or a large class of persons to which the member belongs.
Given it's a one person, one vote body, I would say it's generally possessed by everyone in the community, anyone in the community.
Other factors deemed appropriate by the presiding official under the specifics of the disclosure and the nature of the action.
The same as before, this is a kind of one member, one vote body. So it's really a broad community body.
Thank you, Guy, for reading the questions and Mike for answering. I would rule that that Mike does not have a substantial or financial conflict in this agenda item for discussion nor for voting. But we're not voting, we're just discussing because it's new business.
And then I have
the chair back, Mike.
No, I have
Any
one more disclosure as well.
Oh.
Given that this has come up in the past, I believe we are, my wife and I are family members. I have a family membership of Girdwood Nordic Ski Club as well. I don't believe that gives us any benefits except some stickers and a newsletter.
Thank you, Mike, for disclosing the donation. And I would rule that does not rise to a substantial or financial conflict, as that is mostly available to all communities.
Thank you.
Any objections to my other ruling? Okay, then if there are no objections, you may have the chair back, Mike.
Thank you, Brianna. Okay, any other disclosures? Seeing any, so we will move on to the item itself. So, and all five of us can discuss this. So GBS review and vote regarding the Girdwood Trails plan. So again, I will hand this over to, or I'm not hand it over, I will let Brianna speak to this initially.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Thanks everyone for that grand entrance. Well, since our ruling or our motion in July to give a deadline of January 31st to complete the Trails plan, the Trails Committee worked very hard with the help of Kyle and Huddle to come up with the very thorough community vetted process after had the writing of how many meetings from last year, almost 2 per month with 2-month break of going through the most updated Trails plan to come up with the concept complete. The candidate plan, sorry. And at last meeting, the body voted overwhelmingly in support of the candidate plan right now. That's the very brief update, but Kyle, you're welcome to take it from there.
Sure. So our directive was to have a plan to you by February 1st, or after the first February Girdwood Trails Committee meeting, and they met that deadline a month early. And so for the board for your review is the blue line draft document. In order to find this, you can easily just go to the Girdwood Board of Supervisors website. You can go over here to Girdwood Trails Plan, click on that, and then you can see all the different drafts of the Girdwood Trails Plan from when we first went out to public comment to when all staff edits were collected and approved, which is referred to as the red draft. And then the blue draft is where the red draft that was not accepted by GTC, and then amendments were proposed by GTC members. And those amendments were all voted on and either accepted or rejected. and then put into a blue draft here. And so there's 2 different versions of the blue draft. There is the track changes on. So if you click on that, you can look through there and see where all the changes were made. It also includes the red line changes that were accepted by GTC. And so those are in there as well. And for a less distracting version of the plan, you can go to the blue line draft changes accepted, and it's a clean read. So you can just get more of a gist of it and understand it without getting stumbled or tripping up on all the different little lines, colors in there. So there's that version there too. So Margaret's got something to add.
Well, I was going to say, and that's not all, like great pitches on TV. The bottom one, the Girdwood Trails Plan revised 1220, incorporates changes that are mistakes that we found and corrected. Unfortunately, like all great things, there was still a small amount more. So there's another page that goes with that of known problems. So the most comprehensive that we have a copy of right now is the 3rd one down.
So yeah, the last line you'll see there.
And then you can see the additional changes, which is an ongoing document that we'll work with Huddle on. So, you know, it really is taking a village, and there's a lot of input, which is great, but it does make it kind of hard to edit as a community too. So bear with us as we work through it, but that's where the information is.
When you open up an encyclopedia and look up the term writing by committee, this is the term, this plan right here is what you're going to find. It has been written by the community, edited by the community, voted on by the community. This has been a very long process. We are right now just doing a round of edits for punctuation, spelling, things like that. It's just text edits that we're going through and just cleaning up. But for the most part, nothing substantial is going to change after that round. So what you find in that last line is the substance and the context of it is what has been approved by GTC. Yep. And we are also right now presenting this to land use, and we will be seeking a vote of land use at their February meeting to bring as advisement.
What are you actually presenting to land use?
The blue one on the blue line. Yep.
Did land use never voted on the red?
Red line never came out of trails.
Yeah, right. They didn't start. Okay. Any comments from the board? Thank you for the explanation as well. Yes. Of the many, many different flavors. Any other comments from the board or the community?
I have one mic. Is Brianna?
Brianna first, and then Brian has a common question. Brianna.
Thank you, Mike. I just wanted to thank all of you and Margaret and Kyle for so many countless hours of editing and listening and being patient, and all the community members that have attended countless maybe meetings or just a few and gave input in editing, because this is definitely, like Kyle said and Margaret emphasized, a community effort. And so many opportunities to make comments and be heard. So thank you all.
Thank you. Brian.
Thank you. This is probably a question for Margaret or Kyle. I'm wondering if we can get a little more specific on the Girdwood Trails plan so people will know what 2 versions we're specifically looking at. I mean, there's 7 kind of entries right there. It's hard to, even for myself, I'm not quite sure which ones we're looking at. Maybe a sentence down in there about the Girdwood Trails plan. Just add something about what's getting voted on.
Okay, we could maybe add an asterisk to the last line to say the plan that was accepted and adopted by GTC.
Yeah, something just that draws attention to that particular.
We haven't updated this through this because we've been catching up on everything else. So that's a good point. We'll do that tomorrow.
I like the way that you've put the box on like the cover that says this is the red line version and this is the blue line version. And I think that definitely helps.
I think if you could identify both, basically the red line version, the blue line version in that list, it might be, I can't quite see it from here.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're the two that are normally in front.
Yeah, we
Right.
put bullet points up above and red line, blue line.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
And then, I mean, the Board of Supervisors, though, in whenever it was, said that they would consider whether or not to approve the red line or.
Yes, so both of them are effectively in front of us.
Yeah.
Yes, it's just that one was not approved, one was not supported by GTC, and one was supported by GTC, and they've gone through different amounts of raw public comment.
And so if the Board of Supervisors have any questions about what plans they should be reading, just feel free to reach out to us. We'll make sure you get the right one.
Okay, thank you. So we're not voting on that today, but we now know what we're going to be looking at and what we're going to be considering, presumably next month under old business. Okay, any other comments on GTC? Sorry, on the Trails plan? If not, we will move on to item 17, LUC agenda item LUC 2302. LUC recommendation for GBOS letter of non-objection to liquor license transfer for Alpenglow Coffee House. This, my understanding is this may have some time constraints around it, because we're doing this before it goes in front of LUC, I believe.
Right.
Correct? Yeah. Could you just speak to the scheduling issue around it?
Sure. Well, we just received the information last week about this request for the liquor license transfer. And so that means that it had missed the LUC meeting last week. So given the timing of this, it seems like the assembly hearing is scheduled for March the 7th, which would mean that LUC can hear it as new business in February, but by the time we get to March, it will already be under protest. Which protest is not necessarily the worst thing in the world. It could go to protest, but the GBOS meeting would be substantially later in the month. Look up where that is. Yeah, so the GBOS meeting would be on the 20th. LUC will be on the 13th. So regardless, it would be under protest from the 7th to the 14th or so, whenever we could get that letter of non-objection. So when GBOS has faced this before with either trails or land use, but definitely specified under land use, what we've done is written a letter that is conditional upon the land use committee agreeing and providing their input. And that's what I propose we do for this one in order to resolve it. We could also look at asking land use to hear it as old business.
Yeah, let's have that option of expediting if they wish.
They could.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So we will know at our next meeting whether land use acted on it, expedited next, acted on it or did not.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you very much. And this is transferred from
I think it is.
From the old Mexican restaurant.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
Lady Ramos.
Yeah, thank you.
That's exactly it.
Okay, any questions or comments on that? If not, we will move to item 18, which is resolution of support for the fire department for rough trucking equipment. That I believe we have covered under item number. No, we haven't. Okay. We have done that. So let's go to the other one then. So in that case, so what is labeled here is 17B, but I think I just called 18.
17C.
So we'll move to what is labeled 17C. So resolution of support for turnouts.
Yes, you might recall at the beginning of last year, we determined that we had 19 sets of expired turnouts. Turnouts have a lifespan, which are what firefighters wear to go into buildings or hazardous materials areas. And so we had written a grant, federal grant, to replace all 19. In the meantime, we had a sort of crisis situation. We needed to replace 9 sets. We ordered those. The grant was not approved by FEMA, or the Fire Act grant was not approved by the U.S. Fire Administration. And so now we're coming back and asking for the remainder of the 10
sets of turnouts that are expired.
We have a cost for that.
Waiting for an updated cost. The costs were going up from we're waiting for the quote. But they did tell me that they would be up at least 5% from last year.
Of what's the ballpark?
Oh, 30,000. You have a resolution for it.
Okay, I missed that.
We don't have it in the packet
Oh,
at this time.
okay, we'll plan for next.
Yep.
Our next meeting works in terms of schedule.
Yep. Yeah. And from the date that we ordered them, it's, you know, the municipality will take a week, cut the purchase order, and then it will be 4 to 6 months before we'll get them. So.
Thank you. Any questions from the board or the public on this item? Okay, so we will formally consider that next month. Thank you. There are reports in the packet from other groups, including the library. Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
If no report, I make a motion, we adjourn.
Thank you. All second.
Second, this is Brianna.
Thank you very much, Brianna. Thank you, everybody, for we are now adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for getting through
everyone.
This. Get you hammered.
Well,
Thank you, Mike.
thank you.
All right.